So that was the first two races of the day.
Model T's.
And we're going to do our first parade lap now, guys. And I'm going to hand the microphone over to Jordan, seeing that he's the youngest of the lot. We'll let him talk about the oldest cars of everything. Jordan, there's a microphone over there. Grab it, bud, and have a chat with us about this. I mean, trust me, even I wasn't around. Sorry, even Gary was. Maybe Gary was. I'm only joking.
Gary,
I feel even younger.
I actually was around when a lot of this happened, but not in an opportunity to be up here in the commentary box and take it all in. And talking about take it all in, Jordan, if you look down on the new pit complex, those vehicles that are standing there range between, I think it's 1906 and 1920. Wow. There's 10 of them that was organized by, I'm going to call him Sir Patrick Vermaak, because he's pretty much legendary in motorsport, and he organized those 10 vehicles that are all so aged. We did have a function here on the Thursday evening where our internationals from England and Netherlands and around the world and everybody else from up north in South Africa came to join us, and the guys were saying, okay, are we going out with those cars with a parade lap? We said yes, but don't worry, we'll keep it to a maximum of 46 kilometers an hour so we won't drive you scared. Why did we pick 46 kilometers an hour? Because that is the fastest speed that the best of those cars can do. So the people that are in those motor cars is in fact our international racers that have come from outside the South African borders.
You know, these cars are absolutely incredible. The Ford Model T was, you know, the first car on the production line that was mass produced. And now almost 110, 120 years later, we still see them running and driving today. Very well looked after, taken care of, still doing their 46 miles or kilometers an hour as they can.
It's rough at that speed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can, there's some people that can run faster than that, but you know, they are just as elegant and beautiful as they were 100 and something years ago, and they still run just as good.
I always just remember Henry Ford saying as well, you can have any color you like as long as it's a black one.
Yeah.
And they're not all black out there, I'll tell you that much. There's some beautiful paint jobs on these, some of these machines, and some wood as well. And look at them go down the main straight.
There's one coming past us that's got a big number 6 on the side of it, and there's some info on it. That's a 1914 Model T Speedster. And Andre Wessels from Wellington, he's the man that will be driving that motor car around here. So there is a lot of history out here. We've got from 1908, we've got them, and up until about 1915. So we've got a lot of them out there. There's a Model T Ford, a 4-seater, that will also be out there as well, and a Model T Ford Runabout, which will be driven by Philip Rosser from George. So a lot of time, effort and love is put into these motor cars that you're seeing working their way around the circuit. And they're only making their way out of turn 1 at this point in time. So this is the Model T Ford.
Well,
any color except black, but not all of them are black.
What I find
colors, yeah.
What I find amazing though, Frankie, when I look at the destinations of these cars, it just shows you how all of these are scattered all over South Africa, and a lot of them here in the Western Cape as well. You know, Wellington, Groot Brakrivier, and George. All these places, Somerset West as well, just so close by here. And then a few from out of town, Pretoria. Of course, that 1908 Model S Ford is one that's from outside of Cape Town. The 1914 Model T 4-seater by Emil Kuschke from Pretoria. The first one I spoke about was Alice van Jaarsveld. Alice van Jaarsveld in the 1908 example. And then, like I say as well, the runabout Model T Ford, Philip Rosser from George. So also out of towner, but yeah, in the Western Cape. And the Marshalls also down there getting a lovely view.
Okay, Byron, the one that is from, probably the furthest, is from Pietersburg, in other words, from Polokwane. That is the 1910 Model T Ford, and Gerard Breitenbach from Polokwane owns that motor car that will be making its way around here. So they come from, as you say, basically from all parts of the country.
And it's actually, I find incredible that a lot of these are still driven down across country. I mean, you'd think some of these guys are trying to take care of it the best they can, and they put it on a truck and trailer and want to ship it down, but these guys still drive them possibly every weekend, every couple of days, and I mean, it's not like they're stored away for the rest of their lives. They're still used, and I say abused, but at 46 kilometers an hour, you can't really abuse a motor car like that.
But, you know,
In 1911, 46 k's an hour was super quick, eh?
but, you know, you're just mentioning it there, Jordan. You know, the thing is, a lot of historic motor cars are locked away in garages and not seen for years, and it's the greatest crime, the greatest heart sore, if you ask me, because I know, yes, it does cost money, yes, it has time and effort and everything, but for seeing automobiles, not only racing cars but historic road cars as well, being used and driven is absolutely beautiful.
I'll never forget when the very first motor car was ever made. I remember back in the day we had horses. It was just horses. And it was actually slower than what a horse could run. And the people then said, this thing called a motor car, it'll never work, never take off, because how can you beat a horse? Well, there are horses inside cars today, lots of them under the bonnets of cars.
You say that when in the 50s and 60s people believed that there was going to be flying cars by now. And I mean, 50, 60 years before that, they still thought that horses were the best thing.
Yep.
So it's quite incredible. And one of the things I find super interesting that people my age don't understand is that these cars were still crank-handled back in the day. You had to start them with your hands. So.
Now we're watching the Fords. This is the whole Ford club. But the oldest motor car in the world is a Mercedes-Benz. That is the oldest motor car in the world, and they Mercedes-Benz is more than 130 years old. It's about 130, 135 years old is the Mercedes-Benz. But we are watching all the Fords out there. But just some interesting information that the Merc is actually the oldest motor car in the world.
And that very motor car was taken by Bertha Benz and her two teenage sons on a journey in 1888. From Mannerheim to Pforzheim to visit her mother, a journey that takes today a half an hour, took 17 hours to complete.
As a matter of fact, I think either 2011 or 2012, somewhere around there, the very first motor car, which is Mercedes, was actually at Mercedes-Benz Century City in the Brand Gallery. That car was brought in from Germany to celebrate then 125 years of Merc. And that motor car was standing at the Mercedes-Benz Century City dealership. And that's where I found out that Mercedes-Benz is the oldest car in the world. But we're not talking about Mercedes-Benz now, we're chatting about the Fords that are out on the track.
And it's amazing as well, the Ford name has been a staple in automobile manufacturing. You know, it's many workers throughout the years, not only in the United States and Detroit, but many factories around the world have employed these magnificent workers to build Ford motor cars. And yes, the Model T is just one example of that long heritage started by none other than Henry Ford.
I mean, if you think about it, this was the common man's car. This was everything on the street in the early 1900s. So to look at these today still being driven around and taken care of, and it's a sight that you won't see every day. And I mean, that Mercedes pattern wagon that you were talking about, the world's first car, that doesn't get driven around. That's a showpiece.
And not run on fuel, it was run on, I think it was paraffin.
Yeah, really.
That's what it was powered on, yeah.
If we could run on paraffin nowadays, I mean, I think we'd have a good time.
But yeah, I'll be watching them go down the back straight. Some of them are coming out of turn 4, out of Sarl Sweep. And it's a lovely sight. Francois, you joined us here. Lovely historic equipment that we're seeing out there on the track.
You said a lot of blood, sweat and tears goes into these vehicles. Listening to Jordan earlier on, he's saying, you know, these guys actually get out there on the road and they drive these cars to their fullest extent and drive from afar. Do what we do in 16 hours, they do in 16 days, but they still get here. But just the mere fact that people have the gumption to put these things on the road and go and ride them, they're roadworthy, they're licensed, and they're allowed to be on the road. It's actually a privilege to see one of these things on the road. I've been fortunate up in the Northern Cape, driving on the N12, and then you go past one of these cars on the road and you hoot and they wave, and there's this whole camaraderie out there because they know you have the respect for what they've put their time and effort into.
But Jordan, also, there are no parts available for these things. So if
absolutely not.
anything breaks, it's got to be machined.
Or MacGyver.
So you can imagine how much it costs to keep these cars on the road.
Absolutely. But I suppose that's why you would only take them out every weekend or every couple of weekends, because, I mean, at the extent of what these cars are worth, let alone how fragile they are.
The upside of it is they won't get hijacked because they're not going to get very far very quickly. we'll catch them in time, so it's fine. But yeah, it's you don't want it breaking, obviously, and you know, they don't have sort of like the modern technology, the roller
absolutely not.
bearings, and there's all dry bearings type setup and things like that. Blade suspension, you don't have shocks. So those things, when they do pack up, like you rightly said, they have to be machined, and you've got to do a drawing, and it's got to be the precise miking and all the rest to get it correct. And it's got to be the right kind of steel. The steel's not always available, so you're going to fly in some steel from overseas, from Europe. So yeah, it's. But the funny thing is, there are a couple of purveyors in the United States that still make parts for these things. So you can get the
I
parts.
suppose there is a bit of a market for it still.
No, for sure. I mean, in the States, we know the guys build rat rods, they do all kinds of things, and they want the buckets, they want the wheels and stuff like that. So there are people that do it in the States, and also, like in the UK as well, for the older cars, there's a market for it.
I mean, there's you would still call this a bit of a hot rod community where you want to build a T-bucket, or you want to kind of build a classic car with new modern parts. I say modern parts,
And it's not too modern, really. It's only that
still
they
from the
put
60s,
something a bit more petrolized in it, if I may use the word out of context. But we see them pulling back into the new pits. I think the folk there give them a round of applause. Nice for these guys to bring out these Model Ts out at Killarney. Absolutely beautiful. And it's not a sight that you're going to see every day. You've got to go to a classic car show, and you're lucky you might see one or two. Here we have a whole rendition of them. The Model S's and the Model Ts. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. And yeah, it's not something we see every day. And over 100 years old are these cars. Over 100 years old. It's absolutely. I mean, some of them are older than your great grandmother.
Oh yes,
You know,
I can tell you that.
And
for sure.
they stood the test of time. So